Hi, welcome to Loft 801. My name is Diego, and today I'm talking about an A24 film directed by Alex Garland, Civil War. It was released on April 26, 2024, and delves into a dystopian vision of the United States on the brink of collapse. With 2024 being an election year for us, this movie can feel unnervingly close to reality. Now, before I hop into my review, if you want to support the channel, then please take a second to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you, I really appreciate it. As a warning, this review will contain some heavy spoilers, so please continue at your own risk. Lastly, if there's anything you want to see reviewed, don't forget to let me know by leaving a comment and I will do my best to get to it. Thank you. I'm hopping in 3, 2, 1. The film follows 4 war journalists, Lee, Joel, Sammy, and Jesse, as they navigate the chaos of a crumbling America while racing to Washington, D.C. Their mission to document the final days of a government besieged by rebel forces showcases the fragile balance between freedom and tyranny. Garland's movie does not present clear heroes or villains. Instead, it emphasizes the moral grayness of war and how the country has become a battleground, not just of ideologies, but of human survival itself. I've wrestled with how I feel about the moral grayness of this movie. Presented from the journalistic viewpoint, I think it's good to make the movie apolitical and not take a side. By remaining intentionally neutral, we get an ambiguous eye capturing the chaos and unpredictability of war. It makes the movie feel realistic. Gunfire and deafening silences feel overwhelming and intense. Additionally, the handheld cinematography lends itself to the documentary style immersion of the characters. So, from an integral journalistic point of view, this movie is solid. Journalism should be raw and unbiased. However, from a storytelling point of view, this movie is very lacking. Because the movie is apolitical, it's hard to get invested in the dystopian setting and themes of societal collapse. The characters, specifically the journalists, feel lacking in their emotional depth and relatability. They often come across as detached or unlikable. As an apolitical movie, Civil War could have improved upon its thematic context. For example, the film doesn't provide enough background about the war or what's at stake. It leaves the violence feeling decontextualized. This is frustrating because as a viewer, I'm not emotionally invested in the story or the content of the movie. By adding some thematic context, the apolitical stance wouldn't have had such a negative effect. Truth be told, I think Alex Garland was scared of making this movie. Given the election year, I think this movie is too scared to deep dive into the narrative, dystopian world, and characters, and that is unfortunate. Visually, I don't think this movie does much. Given the narrative, this makes sense but also feels lacking. Cinematographer Rob Hardy helped capture practical effects rather than extensive CGI. This is great. Hardy captures the raw devastation from the war. He captures the intimate moments of psychological strain on characters. Unfortunately, there isn't much flair or oomph to the cinematography. It oftentimes feels bland, and I think it goes to show why editing, specifically color grading, is important. When it comes to the soundtrack, I have the same thoughts as from the cinematography. It works, but it's not great. There isn't anything that stands out and makes me sit on the edge of my seat. This is unfortunate because many scenes in the movie could have been emphasized with the soundtrack. The highlight of this movie is the casting and characters. Kind of. Lee Smith, played by Kirsten Dunst, is a seasoned photojournalist. Dunst does an amazing job with her emotional arc and growth in this movie. She goes from a morally ambiguous character, balancing impartiality and journalistic responsibility, to a selfless friend. Her acting was incredible in this movie. My favorite character in this movie was Joel, played by Wagner Moura. I called him the Walmart Pedro Pascal to a Brazilian friend, and boy did I get chewed out. Moura, I'm sorry, you were incredible in this movie. Joel is nowhere near as stoic or jaded as Lee and provides an enthusiastic balance to the narrative. He gets giddy from the adrenaline rush with his dangerous job. However, beneath all that energy, he hides an emotional burden from the trauma he's witnessed. In some ways, he's a mentor to Jesse. I love this because he shares his experiences with Jesse. However, the true mentor of the movie is Sammy, played by Stephen McKinley Henderson. He's also a veteran journalist and mentors the group. He's much more cautious and reflective in his journalistic approach. His presence is sobering and wise. He clearly understands the human cost of the war more than his counterparts. My least favorite character, a character I hated, was Jesse. Haley Spaney portrayed her wonderfully and I have no complaints about her acting. However, her character and her writing sucked monkey nuts. Initially, I was excited about her character because she's a young journalist and wants to get experience on the front lines. I respect that, genuinely. However, a lot of the actions she takes during the movie make zero sense. She's young and naive and bound to make some mistakes, but there's no excuse for making her stupid. In conflict zones, she takes horrific, unprepared, and nonsensical risks. For example, what teenage girl hops from one moving vehicle to another moving vehicle full of strangers in the middle of a war zone for the sake of having fun? It doesn't make sense. Lastly, the ending of the movie dumbfounded me. I was shocked at how careless she was, leading to Lee's death. It's shocking, really. I think my biggest complaint about Jesse and the drama in this movie is that the drama is made up for the sake of having drama. The drama feels fake and unreal. If Garland had taken a deeper look at his script and revised a few of the character actions, this movie wouldn't feel so shallow and surface level. With better character-driven drama, a lot of the themes would have hit harder. Journalism and ethics, violence and dehumanization, impartiality versus involvement, the loss of innocence. This movie had a lot of potential that Garland failed to unlock. Speaking of misused opportunities, I think Nick Offerman was misused as the president. His broadcasts were fine, but I wish he would have played a much heavier role in this movie. The best example of how he could have been portrayed is in Fallout 3. Enclave President John Henry Eden consistently promotes his ideology throughout the game and serves as a wonderful background antagonist. I wish the president in Civil War would have served a more consistent and menacing role. To end my thoughts on a positive note, I love Jesse Plemons as the random soldier. I think his performance was great. His character was very unhinged and scary. His ideology and motivations are clear. He was written very well in my eyes and helped create dread and suspense with his actions. More characters like this with a clear ideology and narrative context would have vastly improved this movie. Overall, Civil War was lackluster to say the least. The four journalists, Lee, Joel, Sammy, and Jesse, have a solid mission in documenting America's downfall. While the film captures the chaos and unpredictability of war with some intense action and handheld cinematography, it struggles with thematic depth. The apolitical stance gives an integral view of journalism, but also weakens the emotional investment in the dystopian setting and characters. The lack of narrative context also doesn't help. Some highlights are Lee's emotional arc, Joel's enthusiasm, and Sammy's wisdom. However, Jesse's irrational decisions detract from the film and make the drama feel fake and shallow. Ultimately, the movie's lack of dramatic substance leave its potential untapped. There are many narrative routes Garland could have dived into, but he didn't. With 2024 being an election year, I would have loved to see a more politically, emotionally, and narratively complex movie. I didn't hate this movie, but I certainly didn't love it. So, if you haven't seen this movie and you can't decide if you want to watch it, I wouldn't recommend it. I think there are better releases. Thank you for listening to my review of Civil War. If you enjoyed the content and want to support the channel, then leave a like and hit subscribe. If you did not enjoy the content, thank you for sticking around. As always, I would love to read what you have to say, so leave a comment and let me know what you're thinking. Also, if you want me to review something, don't forget to let me know and I will do my best to get to it. Lastly, if you want to see some more from me, then you can check out my vlogs linked up above or my podcast, Good Friends. Again, thanks for watching. My name is Diego and I will see you next time.